D Wax Shellac says, have you guys seen Sean Actual Justice Warrior's take on MR's views on crime and squatting? I do think his take on Emma and Binder having a glib take on crime has a point, but I would like to see a debate or at least a rebuttal. But I do realize he might be clout jumping. I don't care.
The stupid asshole who thought the George Floyd effect... No, he's a moron. You should be embarrassed for thinking he had a point. And if you want us to respond to it, you should elaborate and tell us what his point is instead of making us watch that fucking moron.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, am I glib on occasion? Yes. Yes.
You know what's glib is to say, like some people did, that... this sort of retail theft ring thing has nothing to do with want and privation, as maybe somebody, Actual Justice Warrior is a fan of, said, when we know that the people that are actually doing the boosting for retail thefts, those videos that apparently some people like to play for YouTube revenue, that those people doing that are almost like 9 in 10 doing so to support addictions. So I don't think we're the ones being glib. I think some other people are being really glib, and I think, like, keep pushing us.
Well, I mean, I just like the idea of it. I'm going to be glib about claims about crime, given the fact that crime is down substantially, and that's not being represented in the coverage of crime nationally. So I don't know what the claim is, but the reaction that I have to that is just basically, I do think that these crime warriors are deserving of mockery because they're not able to actually reckon with the data that we're dealing with, which is that, yes, there was a spike in crime in 2021 and 2022 in the wake of the pandemic when people were desperate, and the crime that occurred after that was correlated. But we also have seen a steep drop in all kinds of violent crime and crime in general since the 80s. It's been on a decline. There was a brief 2-year pick back up, and now we are down once again by every single metric, whether it be violent crime, shoplifting, theft. Nationally, the United States is on a crime decline, and I don't understand how you can cover crime as this, actual crime warrior, actual crime justice warrior,
actual
says,
cop mouthpiece.
Right. Like how that can't be central to your coverage if you're covering it honestly. So
he's just, him and the people who are fans of them are just recycling police talking points, and whether they want to roll their eyes at a term like propaganda or not, the shoe fucking fits. Here's a Sunday Times correspondent, Louis Callahan, traveled on the New York Times for 24 hours to find out how dangerous it really is. Let's play this.
It's 9 a.m. I'm 2 hours into my 24-hour subway ride. I'm at Grand Central Station, which is full of commuters, people going to work, people coming back from work after the night shift. And really, like, the whole of New York is here. The subway's the great leveler. My friend has just bought me a sandwich. I've spoken to Catholic schoolgirls who are unafraid of going in the tube, and grown men who are absolutely terrified.
Oh, don't eat on the subway.
7 p.m. Fulton Street Station.
Hey.
Loving life. I'm about to go meet a retired NYPD sergeant who is going to tell us about crime in the subway and whether we should be worried. Really interestingly, he actually said that sending loads more cops down into the subway, which is what the mayor and the governor have been doing at the moment, is not necessarily the answer. So there's actually, he said, an incredibly low number of crimes that are taking place here. So 1 per about a million rides. And sending huge amounts of police isn't going to stop that incredibly low number of crimes, he says. We're in Queens, quite far out on the line, and we were just in the Bronx. And the trains now, they're just full of people going home. Everyone's just tired, heading home for the day. All right, it's 11 o'clock. I'm in Grand Central, and I've got a burger.
So yeah, I think we kind of get the point.
She was not assaulted.
She was killed 5 seconds later.
Oh gosh. Good you cut it off. We don't want to show that.
No, but she made an observation that it's the people who never ride this thing that are the most afraid of it, and the people that ride it every day, which is also, guess what? Guess who lives in New York? We do.
Yes, people that live in New York and take public transit every day.
Guess who said enjoy the National Guard in your subways? People who don't live here.
Yeah, I mean, no one really enjoys it, and even Eric Adams admitted in the Breakfast Club interrogation.
He ran away from it
by Olayemi that New York. He says it on one side of his mouth that New York City is like this is the safest it's ever been, but also we need cops in the subways because people feel better about cops being there, even though crime is down. But when she pressed him on it, the people that he's listening to are not the people that are not necessarily representative of some communities. It's usually people that are in Manhattan as opposed to the other boroughs. And let's put this up there so that there's no ambiguity that I just sent. The crime rate and what the FBI data shows. The FBI and law enforcement are not incentivized to portray crime as down, by the way. They have every disincentive to do so. So based on that kind of standard and also their past consistency on reporting this accurately for the most part, I'm fine with using the FBI data as the source for national crime rates. Let's scroll down. New FBI data confirms previous indications that crime in the U.S. declined significantly in 2023, continuing a post-pandemic trend.
And just to reference, sorry to cut you off, but just to reference our buddy, the actual Justice Warrior, it doesn't say the post-George Floyd effect trend. It says the post-pandemic trend.
Right.
So like it's fucking embarrassing, frankly. And I'll just say it. Anna retweets that guy. It's fucking embarrassing.
So the new fourth quarter numbers showed a 13% decline in murder from 2023 from 2022, a 6% decline in reported violent crime, and a 4% decline in reported property crime. Can we put this up? That's based on data from around 13,000 law enforcement agencies policing about 82% of the U.S. population that provided the FBI with data through December. We'll see those final numbers in October once they get the full data, but all of these indicators are trending in the direction that we're describing here. So
also, the left is right about crime and should be listened to and not maybe pathologized by leading people in the media about it.
So
yeah,
there we go.
The gall to be accused of not caring and being glib. I fucking resent that. I actually know people who work retail and stuff like that, and I care about what is driving those incidents that, again, we know are inflated by the retailers themselves and the police departments themselves. But what's actually behind it, like, the idea that we don't care about that is a fucking smear, and I resent it so much. And I've bit my tongue so much. And if people want to keep going down that road, then I'm willing to go down it too.
Well, I mean, it reminded me, I guess, a little bit of what we touched on yesterday about male loneliness, which the right has decided that they have a complete copyright over and that the left doesn't care about male loneliness. Well, we do. We just prescribe not, personal pathologies or look at how these other human beings are causing this massive societal ill. It's probably feminists that are just making all these men resentful. No, is there a structural issue at play here? And we talk about that. It's basically the fact that there's very little social safety net in this country. Men are expected to be providers in a rigged game against them and under capitalism. And so giving people a broader social safety net would decrease resentment across the board, including the societal roles that are sometimes expected of men. And then when it comes to crime, sorry, 1 second, Bradley, right? It's this very similar analysis. We're talking about structural issues as opposed to like scary person, scary here. You're not counting this person's lived experience. I mean,
you defunded the police or said something like that.
I mean, if I want to look about profiles about individual instances of people experiencing hardship and crime and violence towards them, I mean, I could just turn on the local news and I'll get basically that coverage no matter what. I find that to be completely horrible, which is why we have a structural analysis about societal ills and what leads to some of those instances. Sorry, Bradley, go ahead.
But I guess all I wanted to say is that I think the issue that what you're mentioning, Emma, is that the criticism kind of comes from a place of basically saying, as an example, it's equated that us or people like us have because our prescription for caring about something like male loneliness is, or like crime, is not watch more Andrew Tate or watch more Joe Rogan or watch more Jordan Peterson, is somehow the criticism that we are not, that somehow we have ceded that ground to right-wing freaks and grifters who actually, in lieu of actually helping these people with their loneliness problems, actually further exacerbates their loneliness problems by leading them down a vortex of just consuming their more and more of their content, as opposed to thinking, hey, you know what? There's no fucking public space in this country. Yeah. There's no places to hang out anymore without paying money. You can't, people literally have zero modicum of don't have a modicum of community anymore because we have sapped up public space for profit. It's just the truth. It's the exact thesis that we had on the Exurbian Now author David Maciotra a few weeks ago, who was talking about, where he mentioned Robert Putnam's book Bowling Alone, which, while somewhat reductive in terms of labor aspects, does speak to the idea that we have basically, by virtue of so many different socioeconomic factors, completely ceded any aspect of association in American life. We literally do not have avenues to have community with one another that don't involve either spending money or joining a cult. Yeah. It's the truth. I mean,
I agree. I mean, and I'll say what at least for me, I think my analysis of crime, the implication is that I'm a privileged white girl that doesn't understand things. And like, I've never hidden the fact that like my parents were lawyers and I had a comfortable upbringing growing up in New Jersey. That is something I'm constantly conscious of. I don't necessarily think that it infringes on my coverage here in any real way. No,
because wealthy people typically have shitty views about crime, like the ones that we're criticizing right now.
Well, that's typically what I mean. I've seen it's not a coincidence that the actual crime warriors' opinions on crime are very similar to the stuff that you hear from wealthy boomers that I've had conversations with in bridge and tunnelers in Long Island and New Jersey. Yeah. It's property owners and wealthy people who basically make those arguments, and we're trying to be representative of the advocates that we've had on this program, including one we'll have on tomorrow, who do the on-the-ground work and have some prescriptions on it based on data.
And also, well, I've said a name. Jenk should not imply that people are on the take from some sort of shadowy, defund organization to undercut the work of these people. That was also a disgusting thing, and I'm tired of biting my tongue on this.
I didn't see any of this, but I trust what you're saying. I mean, I just would say, like, yeah, I mean, part of why I guess I can vouch for this is because if we did have some people that were funding us, maybe I would, like, I take public transport because we don't make a ton of money doing this.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing I'll say about that too, in the context of the crime aspect, is like you were saying, Emma, you turn on Eyewitness News, the first 5 stories are a baby was thrown out a window, or a car was broken into, or someone was shot at a bodega, and as you're saying, every single one of those individual instances, not only are they horrible, but they destroy people's lives and they atomize people, but at the same time, to act as if there are no structural solutions to those problems is actually ceding any sort of ground that we can make up to others. There are structural ways to deal with that involve actually improving people's lives and not immiserating them. They are more connected than anyone would like to think, and actually making those connections, i.e., why so many people have to pay for cars, why so many people have to struggle for housing, why so many people have to be this poor and immiserated in our societies, is what leads to these individual circumstances that people want to mention on the local news. It's true. There is nothing that doesn't flow downstream from those structural issues.
The microcosm of the quote George Floyd effect versus the pandemic effect is exactly that. It is. The George Floyd effect has come from the let's pathologize people who are critical of cops, whereas the COVID thing is, there's structural things that are crushing people and driving bad behavior that we don't want to see from desperate individuals. The one about pathologizing people is purely good for real estate interests and cops, and those interests are very powerful in this country, and so I don't think they need us to speak for them. I think we need to challenge that, because we see the type of country that being accommodating that power is built.
Pair of Stocks says dog parks are the only place to find community, but dogs can be expensive and require a bit of work. That's actually so true. Dog parks do have, like, that's one of the rare places when I used to have, before my family dog passed, but you know that as
and yet
Mr.
you
Dog
still
Owner.
and yet I will say you still need somewhat of an asset in your pet. You need
Yes.
to pay for the pet,
Right.
pay for the upkeep and maintenance of the pet.
That's what pair of socks was
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, it's just one of those things. It's interesting. Like, yes, definitely, it is a communal space, but like so many communal spaces in these areas require some sort of investment in something.
Yeah.
That's why libraries are so important, because you can sit in a library and hang out and not have to spend money on anything.
Yeah.
But people hate when homeless people do that, even though it's one of the only places they can hang out, and they deserve to be there.